Hey y'all, this is Kobe R. Rice, and I'm back again for another weekly creative update, which once again is turning into a twice monthly or every other weekly creative update. But I swear to you, it is not my fault. The gods of chaos are, as usual, all in my life. But before I get into all that, hi, I'm Kobe R. Rice, novelist, screenwriter, TV writer, screenwriter, filmmaker, director, game writer, dramaturg, narrative designer, etc., etc., etc. I wear a lot of hats around here. And this is my podcast, The Epic Fantastical Journey of a Black Female Sci-Fi Writer. Welcome back. And this is episode number 98. And basically, I'm going to do two things today. I'm going to give you guys an update on the first 2 weeks of the second quarter of 2019, which comprise April 1st to April 15th, which we are now in. And then I'm also going to give you a summary of all my creative achievements and milestones between January 1st to March 31st, basically giving you the Q1 2019 wrap up with regard to the things that I've actually accomplished in the first 3 months of the year. So, that's what's going to be happening today. So first of all, sorry that I'm late with this. Actually, I'm late, but sort of not. I kind of got, not even kind of, I literally got bulldozed over by a really horrible head cold that turned into like some sort of sinus infection or whatever. Anyway, it's kind of gross, so I'm not going to get into it. But basically, I have been suffering for almost the past 2 weeks. Pretty much literally right after I recorded that last podcast on April 1st. And I said, oh, I'm so ready for my senior spring and I'm going to be chilling and relaxing and just, hanging out and living my best life. Yeah, okay. The cold said, psych, boo-boo, you're not going to be living your best life. In fact, you're going to be bedridden and basically just suffering for at least a week and a half. And that is exactly what happened, unfortunately. Literally a day or two after April 1st, is when I came down with a really, really bad illness. Whatever it was, it just kind of knocked me flat. And I just find it really ironic and horrible, but also hilarious that every single time I have reached a major milestone this semester, like handing in my master's report, handing in my master's thesis, and then defending both of those, I have come down with something just really, really hard. And it's kind of cray-cray because I don't really get sick that often, but this year has been a really crazy year for that. And as I mentioned in my last podcast, I do believe there is a very strong connection between one's stress level and all the tension and sort of emotional things we're carrying in our body and our physical health. There is definitely a strong link. And if I didn't believe that before, which I did, I definitely believe it now. So hopefully now that most of those major, huge stressful things are over and out of my life, I will be able to kind of breathe and relax and be free. On top of that, I'm also dialing up my self-care even more. You guys know, at least for the past year and a half, I've been really on top of trying to just maintain my health, honor my body. It's important to do that as well as do that for your mind and your spirit and your emotional state, because as artists, we need all of those things working well in tandem in order to make our art. So I feel like self-care, especially for like the physical and the spiritual and the mental, are really important parts of being an artist. And so I'm going to be talking about that a lot today and just in general. But now that I've survived that like 3 months of hell, which I basically literally got sick 4 times in the past 3 months, which is really not, I was shocked and surprised. That is not really how, I roll. I'm never sick ever, usually. So that's what's been going on. But dialing up the self-care, taking more time to relax, taking more time to stay in my exercise zone, cook at home more now that I have more time to do that. And so on and so forth. So crossing my fingers, and I'm hoping that the renewed focus on self is going to pay off later down the line. Okay, so let's just jump right into it. What did I get done for the past 2 weeks? So as you guys know from my last podcast, because I recorded it right after this happened, I successfully defended my master's thesis, which is the TV series adaptation of both Roman history and William Shakespeare's Roman history tetralogy. And that adaptation is called When in Rome. Yay! It was a master's thesis that ended up really being a dissertation length thesis. And I was and am really proud of it. And I had I wouldn't say a little bit of trouble, but some slight static with like getting those hard copies of my thesis back from my professors. But ultimately it worked out. And, it was sort of awkward to ask for those copies to be returned to me because on one end, you don't want to make yourself feel super important or present yourself with an overinflated ego. On the other hand, as a businesswoman who is very protective and very aware of how valuable intellectual property can be, it was very much within my interest as an artist and as a business to get those hard copies back. Because you never really know what the future of an intellectual property will be. And so your current moves around your intellectual property, your business moves, your legal moves, your creative moves should take into account the present, but should also take into account the future of said property as well. So that was a part of protecting my intellectual property's future, was getting those copies back. Because I do not want copies of When in Rome or its TV Bible out there floating, just chilling. And the next thing I know, if When in Rome ever blows up or I ever blow up, I see, somebody that I knew in my circle trying to sell, the original copy on eBay for like $1 million or whatever. I'm not going to do that. So again, not trying to make myself more important than I am, but you just never know what's going to happen, right? Okay, so I did that, and that was really exciting, but I don't want to get too far into that because I already discussed my thesis defense on my last podcast. So if you want to know more about that and how it went, go check out podcast number 97, all right, and just go get your life. Okay, so what else did I do? I'm still grading because I still am a TA for my last TA'd class. And that is happily coming to a close very soon. We'll talk about the end of the semester in just a second. But did some grading. I also did a second rewrite and draft of When in Rome. And I'm ready to work on the third draft, which I would like to get done pretty much by the end of the day tomorrow, by Wednesday morning, because I'm going to go through the actual draft, I think, line by line with my professor sometime this week. And I just want to make sure I'm prepared for that. What I also did, though, is in addition to honing the script version of When in Rome, I also started writing the prose novella version of When in Rome. As you guys know, I like to really make my property as flexible as possible when it comes to IP. So When in Rome is not only a TV series now in terms of me developing it as a TV series, but it's also going to be pretty much fully fleshed out in its final form in a 50-episode novella serialized series. Where basically I'm going to write a novel version of When in Rome. I was going to originally go with 5 seasons, but it will probably be like 5 to 7 seasons. And each season will contain about 10 to 13 episodes each. So we're looking at a minimum of 50 episodes for When in Rome in a novella format, all the way up to a maximum of, 91 episodes, depending on how many seasons and how many episodes per season. And so I have started to write the first episode of the When in Rome novella series that will be coming out on June 25th. I put a link to the pre-order for that particular novella in the last podcast. I'm going to put it also down below in the description box. So check that out if you want to get a really amazing cyberpunk noir high-tech thrill ride through a cyberpunk noir version of ancient Rome, dealing with the characters that are in both Roman history and Shakespeare's version of Roman history. Then When in Rome is the series for you. I'm really excited. I'm working on it right now. And in the past 2 weeks, I started transcribing the original script into novella format. Now, writing a novel/prose version of an episode is very different from writing a TV script version of an episode or a pilot. Novels have other considerations that we have to think about. that sometimes cross over into television, but other times not. I have a lot more room in my novella to develop places, my characters, not only through dialogue, but through action, through facial expression, through inner dialogue or inner monologue. I have to decide really what perspective or POV I want to use for the novel. Am I going to use a first person POV? Is it going to be third person omniscient? Is it going to be third person limited? So depending on how I'm rolling with that, the novel might come off as a very different animal than the TV script version, which is exactly what I would like it to be. But whatever the novel or novella is going to be, that is going to be from first episode 1 all the way to the final episode. That's going to be my fully realized vision. And we talked more about having a fully realized vision of your work in some podcasts ago. But this is why I really love being a novel writer, because ultimately, once you write, edit, and polish and publish a novel, that is your work. You own the work. You can monetize the work. You make money off the work. You build a backlist with your work. And if your work is ever taken and adapted into different media, then not only do you get to exploit the various rights of your work legally, but let's say, for example, somebody bought When in Rome and wanted to turn it into a TV series, which is what I would love to happen. But they make some significant changes or they do things differently. That's okay. Not only because I'm super interested in other interpretations of my work, but I've already pretty much executed the full multidimensional, fully realized vision of the When in Rome series in my novel version. So I might not own what is put out on television or what's made into a feature film, but I do own what was written down from my brain, from my spirit, in the novella serialized version of When in Rome. So for you control freaks out there who are not only worried about how someone is going to interpret or mangle your idea, but who also want to have a source of income off of your work that is apart and separate from the other income you might receive from your rights being purchased, writing a novel is for you. I highly recommend it. If you're a playwright, a screenwriter, a TV writer, a filmmaker, whatever it is you do, you should have a novelized version of it. If you're a game writer, same thing, same exact thing. One of the best novels or novel series I've ever read actually is the one written by S.D. Perry, where she novelized the Resident Evil games. The games are amazing, and now that they're redoing them and remaking them, they're even more amazing. But her version and her interpretation and her vision of the games from a novel writer's perspective is downright incredible. I mean, not only does she really dive in deeply to human nature and how each of these characters, Claire, Leon, Jill, Barry, Rebecca, for those of you who are huge fans of the franchise, you know who I'm talking about, Carlos, Nikolai, all those people. Not only does she dive into their human nature and how human nature unfolds under a dystopian sort of context, but she also really has a wonderful way of differentiating character voice and looking through the eyes of Claire and figuring out her journey and how she's reacting to everything versus how Leon might be reacting to everything. And it's a perspective that we really do not get at all when we're playing the game version of Resident Evil. And the game version in itself is amazing and incredible all on its own. But then the novelization really brings a deeper depth to it. And it's one of my favorite novel series, really, because she does such an excellent job. And looking and studying her work really has helped me to understand how you can tell the same story through different mediums and still provide a very different experience. So just putting that out there for you guys, once again, back to my original point, give people an opportunity to have multiple experiences of your work by providing the novelized version of your work, maybe adapting it into a screenplay or a TV script, or letting somebody else do that, or creating a game based off of the work. Like, in my mind already, I have so many ideas for a When in Rome video game. It would be really intense. It'd probably be like a multi-million-dollar project, obviously, and I would need lots of people. But the game sort of version of itself would be extremely fun and immersive. I mean, because it's like, come on, cyberpunk noir Rome. Like, how is that not going to be fun, right? So anyway, that's my little spiel and my speech on that. Spiel and speech. I know you guys heard that. Okay. So I transcribed the script into prose format. It's like around 10,500 words, which is a perfect length for a pilot novella in a novella series. But like I said before, I need to translate what's going on in the script to a novel format. So there are a lot of decisions that I have to make, and I have to actually now write the novel. It's not just as easy as like transcribing from one medium to another. I have to like engage in the craft and the arts of the medium. So I did that. I also, yay to me, even though I was like sick and and oppressed for the past 2 weeks, you can still hear like a little bit lingering, but I have like a lot more energy today. So I also happily started designing and putting together the very first lesson of my, how do I say, I don't even want to call it an official course because it's not, but I guess I'll call it that. I'm putting together a multi-lesson course or tutorial or vlog series on how to write a badass TV series based on adaptation. I don't know if I said that right. How to write a badass adapted TV series. So you guys know that aside from being a novelist and that being my most favorite medium to write in, I also really, really love television. I love it so much. And I've learned a lot about not only writing original TV, but also writing a TV series that is based on someone else's source material. Now, luckily for me, that someone else has been gone and dead and, out of our lives. Physically, not like culturally, for a few hundred years. So I did not have to go and get the rights to Shakespeare's work, which is great. And so but I will talk about copyright and getting rights and stuff like that. But being able to take someone's work like that and completely reinterpret it into a different medium in a different context has been so thrilling. The process is not even done, but the first, I would say 10 to 20 steps that I took, I definitely, like I said to you guys before, want to start really tracking that process and putting it out there for other people to really look into and study. Not because I'm the end all and be all when it comes to adaptation, like not even close, but me documenting, explaining, and teaching my process might help other people who are trying to do similar projects who don't have any other resources or courses to latch on to, And for now, this course will be free, at least until I finish the first iteration of the full series, because I really don't want to, one, like charging for this course sort of, to me, gives me a little bit of authority that I don't feel like I've quite earned quite yet. I will have earned it after a certain amount of time and after doing this a few times, but like successfully. But I'm not trying to like charge people to gain access to my dramaturgical process around this, because I'm still learning the process. I'm not the expert yet. I will be, but I'm not yet. And also, charging is just going to put up a wall and deny others access and perspective in this process. And I really do want it to be an iterative, collaborative conversation that we're all having about adaptation as I continue to publicly document and lead people through my process. So there's a lot of benefit to this series. It's going to help me to really itemize the different steps of adaptation, at least the steps that work for me. And hopefully me sharing my knowledge will encourage more of you to dive into your own ideas about adaptation. And of course, because I'm only working with the TV series medium and the novel slash prose medium, I'm only going to be talking about adaptation from novels and television. I can't really do playwriting adaptation. I mean, I'm sure I could, but in my playwriting class this semester, the TV pilot was what I was working on, and that's a very different animal. So I'm not going to pretend to be able to teach anybody how to adapt a play. Feature films will come eventually because I do plan on adapting some real life stories and real life material into actual feature films, and we'll talk about how that process for that when it comes. But for now, I'm working on original screenplays. But I'm really excited about being able to share my process with you guys on adaptation, and I hope that you guys are excited too. And I just finished lesson number 1 a few days ago. I'm going to be continuing to work on the other lessons, and as they are ready, I will release them on the internet, on YouTube, and I will have links that will lead you guys from YouTube back to my website at thebohemianbadass.com. That's THEBOHEMIAN badass.com. And I will also, have free worksheets and workbooks, the same ones that I'm using for my own series, to develop my own series, and the same ones that I really feel have helped me to work out some really important concepts that are integral to building a TV series and an adapted TV series. So all of that will be available absolutely 1,000% free, pretty much probably for like the next 6 months or so as I'm, doing this process. I'll also continue working on When in Rome in general as a series, as a world, and as a movement pretty much for the next year or two. And that's going to be really exciting. So just wanted to announce that. I'm really excited I was able to get that done despite the fact that I was like suffering. That was a huge achievement for me. So let's see. Okay, so that was the past 2 weeks. Mainly, aside from all of that, I have just been resting and recuperating, honestly. Literally from like April 4th until yesterday. Honestly, I was just taking my time, making sure that I was taking care of me first. I was able to sleep in, just relax, hang out around the house, be restored with water and soups and all kinds of stuff. And I just took a lot of time to recuperate. And it was a little frustrating for me, I'm not going to lie, okay? Sorry. I needed to drink some water. Feeling a bit parched. It was a little frustrating because you guys know that I'm kind of a crazy machine when it comes to my work. I really like to dive into whatever I'm working on, whether it be my novels, my games, my screenplays, my businesses, my brands or what have you. I love that stuff. So it doesn't really feel like work most of the time. But I love to do it all day, every day. That's what I do. I'm working towards my independence as an artist, as a writer. On top of that, I'm also working on trying to, break into more mainstream aspects of the business. Not really taking my intellectual properties mainstream, but more so getting mainstream experience by looking for career opportunities in my fields in which I'm trained. And so I've started to apply to a lot of positions at some really great companies that I think are really great for me in terms of being a perfect match and a perfect fit. So we'll see how that goes. But back to the point, I'm used to being able to be on top of my game all day, every day. And that was really hard to not do that for the past 10 days. And I kind of realized that my relationship to my work is really great, but I also need to really examine it too, because not being able to work really made me feel down and sad and bad. And I think part of that is natural, but then the other part of that, you should really, I don't know, I'm not going to say you, I'm going to say I should probably start interrogating and questioning how much of my identity is comprised of my work and my creativity. And I don't know if that is a bad thing or a good thing, that a lot of my identity is couched in my creativity. It's good because my self-esteem and self-love and self-worth comes from within in terms of the things that I love to do, right? I'm also never bored. And as a result, I don't really understand people who are bored because I have so many things in the world that I want to do, but it's hard to get it all done. And so a good part of that, the part of that that's good is that I'm never bored. I'm always busy. And like my self-worth or my self-esteem, the way I see myself is running on a green, renewable energy that no one can really take away from me. Except when I'm sick. I think sickness can take it away. And I don't mean to joke about that because health is important. If you don't have your health, you don't really have anything. And I really rediscovered that once again when I wasn't really able to like do anything except sleep. And not being able to engage in my creativity was very depressing and sad for me. And so, when you realize that you are dependent on, like, so dependent on that aspect of your life, and that is taken away temporarily, you really start to wonder, man, is it good that a lot of my self identity is wrapped up in this one thing? So I'm really having some internal, battles with that, and maybe I should cultivate different areas in which I can like feel validated and feel alive. But it's hard because I feel like this is what I was born to do, like if Michael Jordan could never play basketball. I mean, he's retired now, but he was retired before, and then he came back. For all you old heads out there, he came back into the game, and if you recall, he was not only crying, but he kissed the court because that's how much he loves the game. And you could tell that this is just what he was born to do, And it doesn't mean that he is naturally, he had natural talent, but he had to work really hard and put a lot of his heart and soul into the game. And I feel the same way about my writing. Like, I feel like I was born to write and create and to do all these things that I'm doing. And all I need to do is keep working and keep honing my skills so that I can finally meet the expectations that I have for myself and meet the spiritual milestone that I need to meet for what I'm divinely here to do, And I know for some of you that sounds really woo-woo, but I feel very strongly that this is what I was meant to do. And so when I'm unable to do it, it's very hard. So anyway, that was a little bit of a tangent, but I just sort of had like some thoughts about like where one's self-worth comes from, mine in particular. And a lot of it is wrapped up in my creative life. And I'm just, it was a little scary, like how sad I felt when I was unable to engage with that. And so I've just been thinking a lot about what to do around that, or if anything needs to be done. Anyway, think about that for yourself too, I guess. Okay, so let's get into the past 3 months of my creative hustle, okay? Guys, ladies, gents, okay, all of my lovelies out there who fall in between. If you guys only knew what has been happening outside of my creative life and my graduate school life and my work, you would look at me like, girl, I don't know how you survived, okay? In terms of just like everything outside of, graduate school, my creativity. For the past 3 months, things have been so crazy and so shaky and so scary and terrifying, honestly. And, every single month there was a new major upheaval. And somehow, guys, I was still able to kick some ass and still, stay on target. And the major lesson that I learned before I tell you exactly what I got done for the past 3 months was that no matter just like Neil Gaiman says in his clip, he was giving a speech to a college a few years ago. And he says, no matter what happens in your life, just keep making art. Period. Period. Keep making art. Cat explodes, keep making art. You get hit by a bus, keep making art. He is so right, because that is what I did, and it really helped me to not only learn how to stay disciplined under fire, but it also showed me how focusing on what you love to do and what's important to you will really carry you through the hardest, most turbulent times. And I'm not saying that those times are necessarily over, because we never know what the future holds. But I will say that keeping my nose to the grindstone, focusing on the prize, keeping my eye on the light at the end of the tunnel, and just getting up every day and doing my best to keep putting one foot in front of the other, keep writing those words down, keep moving. Oh my gosh. It was hard, but I got so much done. So let me just tell you what I accomplished in the past 3 months, in case you haven't really caught all the podcasts and everything that I've been recording for the past 3 months. So in terms of writing, all right, I finished my half of the Everdark novel for the Souls and Shadows USA Today bestseller box set endeavor that I was a part of. Okay, I didn't want to make that announcement on this particular podcast, but I do have an announcement around that. I'm no longer a part of the box set. I'll tell you guys why probably in the next podcast, but the novel is not going to waste, don't worry. But yet and still, despite the fact that I'm no longer a part of the box set endeavor, I wrote over 31,100 words, which was about 54%. 56%, between 54 and 56% of the co-written novel that me and my partner did. I also wrote the backstory for the novel, and I did a lot of the plotting because we both wrote from two different characters' perspectives, and I laid out my character's journey first, and then my partner laid out her character's journey based on, the parts wherein like our characters are together versus our characters being apart. So I did a lot of work on that novel, and even though the process itself was kind of painful at times because I felt like not as connected as I needed to be, I'm really proud of the work that I did on my side of the fence, and I'm amped. I'm excited about it. So I know you guys have like a lot of questions as to what's going on with Everdark and the fact that I just mentioned I'm not a part of the box set anymore. Again, I'll get into that on the next podcast because I want to approach the topic very delicately. And I think I alluded to this actually on the last podcast about integrity, dealing with my career in a way that was healthy for me and that was conducive for me. And I will introduce you guys to that at some point later. Yet and still, the Everdark novel is going to be a part of Souls and Shadows. My work is very much alive and well inside of the book. My partner is still very much a part of the endeavor herself. And I really invite you guys to check it out when it's out. And after Souls and Shadows itself is unpublished from the world, my co-partner and I will be co-publishing really under her, publishing imprint, but we still share the credit for the novel. But we will be co-releasing Everdark together, either at the end of this year or the early beginning of next year. I'm hoping at the end of this year. So that's what's happening with that. That's very exciting. So I finished that. And then, like I told you guys before, I started the When in RŌHM novella. I also wrote just a teeny tiny bit for the fourth book of Ezekiel in the Books of Ezekiel series, which is called Fraternity. I not only wrote for Fraternity, but I also started to, fix the plotting and the plot line for Fraternity. I was going to say Paternity. Oh my gosh. Oh gosh. Freudian slip. Trust me. So I've been working on the plotting for Fraternity, and I'm really excited to get into that. I would say probably sometime in late May, early June, because between now and the end of June, I'm going to be working on finishing out the novella form of When in Rome, writing two novellas, which are called Surrogate and Inherit the Earth, and then also preparing for a release of the first three books of the books of Ezekiel in a box set bundle. And then I'll be launching the When in Rome novella for the first time ever at the end of June on June 25th. So there's a lot going on between now and June 25th. And it's just not realistic to promise you guys that I'll have Fraternity ready, in the next month. More than likely, Fraternity will be coming out at the end of August, more than likely. And I'm hoping that maybe I could even have the next book ready as well. But I don't want to overpromise, but that's what's coming up and that's what's happening. I also was able to, based on the characters and the journeys and all the world that I built for my half of the Everdark novel, I have decided that I'm going to be creating a spin-off series dealing with my main character and her compatriots in its own series called Shaw and Salek. That's SHAW and ampersand Salek, SALEK Inc. Shaw and Salek Inc. So I'm excited about that. The main character is basically Samira Shaw. She is an African American werewolf from the Bronx, and I love her. She's like quirky. She has a little bit of a temper, but she's like very pretty and feminine and fashionable, but like very brave and courageous, and also just like very hilarious and just really fun to watch. And we don't really see many werewolves and vampires of color. And so I've decided that I'm developing the Shaw and Salek series in the same world in which I am developing the Godsman series, the Hitman of Happily Ever After series, and the For Never File series. So all that is going to be pretty much in the same world, in an urban fantasy version of New York City, and I am psyched about that. Ooh, sorry guys, got a little bit of a sniffle. Okay. I also edited more of the lock-in to prepare that for release in paperback. Oh, which by the way, I'm trying to, crossing my fingers, release by May 1st. I'm hoping, I'm not promising that, but sometime between now and May 15th, I'll be releasing the lock-in in paperback. And then on May 17th, I'll be releasing the first three novels of the Books of Ezekiel series in a bundle. So still working on all that. You see all these things that have been in the air. Edited When in Rome once, edited Everdark twice. So that's pretty much in the can at this point. And then for screenwriting, as you guys know, I finished the pilot for When in Rome in the past 3 months. I also was able to write 10 to 15 pages of episode number 2 of When in Rome, which is really funny because that's what happened with the Camille last year. As you guys know, I wrote the first novella pilot of another cyberpunk fempunk series called The Camille last year. And as I was writing and getting ready to publish that novel as a part of the first volume of 2054, there was a lot left over that I didn't use in that first pilot that became a part of episode number 2. So it just, apparently I just seem to write and then just cut my writing off at a point that makes sense and then move on to the next episode. The Camille is also still in the pipeline, by the way. I will still be working on that as well, but before I get to all that, I'm just trying to get to June 30th and release all the projects that I have on my slate at the moment. So just give me a second, just give me a chance, but I'll get to all of that. What else did I do? As I told you guys in the last podcast, I reinvigorated and resurrected the Sandman film trilogy project, which is not a trilogy anymore. It's actually a tetralogy. And I'm really excited about the shape that it's taking. One benefit of taking your time in developing stuff is that you allow them to evolve from your subconscious in ways that really resonate with what's going on in the ether and that really come into a personality of their own. So Sandman is not really a trilogy anymore. And it actually feels a lot better as a tetralogy. That's pretty much all I'm going to say about the content of the Sandman film tetralogy. But as I mentioned last time, the 4 films are currently called The Monster Between Us, although I'm considering changing that name to What Sleeps Between Us, then Sandman, then Bogey, then Van Winkle. And as I mentioned last podcast as well, not only am I writing those in screenplay format, but I'm also developing those into, of course, the novelized versions of the actual screenplay tetralogy. So the novels will probably be coming out before the actual films will be coming out, obviously, because the production schedule is a little bit shorter on doing novels than it is on doing films for the most part. But the Sandman project has become sort of this multifaceted, multimedia, transmedia project, and it continues to evolve, and I'm really excited about that. So that's what I've been working on as well in the past 3 months. What else? I did a lot of plotting and world building for all the aforementioned intellectual properties, so I'm not going to go through that again. And of course, as you guys know, as I mentioned, I not only finished and submitted my master's thesis and defended it, but remember at the beginning of the year, I also had finished and submitted my master's report and then defended that. The master's report, as you guys might recall, was that I was supposed to, which I did, put together a 6-show season of classical works that would be adapted with a more modernized sensibility and a more diverse sensibility. And as you guys might recall, I did a modernized musical version of an old school classical work that I'm going to kind of keep under wraps for now because that's on my project slate. And I did there was a Greek festival that I put together for that as well. I put together a series of, on paper, this is like development. I developed a series of readings of plays that come from the American context, and not just famous American voices, but more marginalized American voices, etc. And there was a really great, very engaging sort of developmental creative project, and I wish I could just present that to a theater company and just have them do it. Maybe one day when I'm an artistic director or something. But I was just super amped about the season that I put together, and so was the committee for the most part. Although, as you guys know, the defense for that one didn't go quite as well, but it is what it is. Again, when I'm doing my summary and resume of what happened with the defense itself, that will be sort of rolled into my assessment of the MFA program here and whether or not MFAs are necessary or even required or whatever for whatever it is you want to do. Necessary and required are the same things, but you guys know what I mean. Speaking of which, one of the big shockers, plot twists, I guess maybe not that much of a twist, but one of the big sort of things that happened in the past 3 months is that my MFA program, unfortunately, will not be continuing ever. In the email, they claimed that our program was going on, and what'd they say? Not unidentified, but just like an undetermined hiatus, like hiatus until we deem that it's not going to be on hiatus anymore. And again, as I said to you guys before, when I talked about this, I could read through that political malarkey, as can anybody else. That's basically them telling us that the program is canceled, because if it weren't canceled, we'd have some kind of ETA on when the program would pick up again. But the fact that it's not going to be picked up and there's no idea really as to when the program is going to restart again, that means that the program has folded. So I'm going to talk about that in much more detail. Probably actually maybe in episode 100 or 101. I really want episode 100 to be a deep, in-depth analysis on like the past 10 years, because I'm coming to the end of a 10-year cycle of being in graduate school and now getting out into like the larger world and growing as an artist and a woman and becoming a mom. And that is quite a journey. And I definitely want to chronicle that and sort of delve into that more deeply on the episode number 100, because having 100 episodes of a podcast is a huge deal, one. And I wanted it to be special and meaningful. So I will probably detail my 10-year journey on episode number 100. And then on episode number 101, I'll go into more depth and detail about the MFA program itself. And again, it's going to be about the good, the bad, the ugly, and the pretty. So it's not an episode meant to drag the program or anyone in it. And it's not an episode meant to elevate the program beyond what it has earned and what it is worth. It's meant to be an honest assessment of my time here, my growth, and whether or not I have considered an MFA to be essential or not to other careers and also to my career. So that's pretty much the lineup for episodes number 100 and 101. This is episode number 98. I have no idea what's coming for episode number 99. I suspect I might have some major surprises in store for this week, either for better or for worse. So it might be, that. We'll see. But in any case, let's continue on because we are here in the now, right? So did that. Thesis, report, finished, submitted, defended for both. I also finished the tenure for one of my GTA appointments, which, as you guys know, on top of everything else I've been doing, I had to TA an 8-week-long course, which basically meant that we were doing an entire semester's of work and grading an entire semester's of paperwork in the course of half of a semester. So you can imagine how much grading that was and stuff like that. And I had that TA-ship plus this current TA-ship plus my report plus my thesis, plus my defenses, plus my classwork, plus all the other stuff I've been doing, which included the lock-in, the publishing, the release of the lock-in, the writing of Everdark, the editing of Everdark, and the writing and editing of When in Rome as a pilot and as a TV series. So much going on, a little bit way too much, honestly. But I got through it, and that's great. I also had the lovely opportunity of reading 7 wonderful plays, all adapted plays. And, that's an accomplishment because I don't know. Getting time in to read stuff while I'm doing all this stuff is really hard. And I already have a goal of trying to read about 50 books for the year. And I'm sort of behind in that goal, but I'm almost at the 20% mark, I guess. So one of my goals, it's a light sort of happy goal, but one of my intentions for the next couple months is just to read more and to catch up. I have so many wonderful books that I want to read. And, honestly, I want to read them. I want to read them. Let's see. And that is, oh no, that's not it, guys. Okay, so marketing. I did a lot of marketing for the Souls and Shadows box set. I also redesigned my entire Colby R. Rice website. And recently, even in the past couple weeks, I added a portfolio page. And this is mostly for when I'm applying for external employment opportunities at production companies and stuff like that. When they ask for a portfolio, instead of sending them a reel, I just send them to a page and they can just peruse at their leisure. But the website colbyrrice.com is looking sexy and wonderful. I love it. I'm excited about it. It did not look like that December 31st, 2018. And the way that I revamped it looks really sexy and fly. And it took a lot of time. So yet another achievement that I was able to miraculously accomplish while all that other stuff was going on. But I'm so happy I got it done. What else did I do? Did an entire launch of the lock-in, which I considered very successful. I also was able to get some new subscribers on my list, do some newsletter swaps, worked on my Amazon ads. I'll talk more about Oh my gosh, that was a very loud motorcycle. I'll talk about my experience with ads and Amazon in a few episodes because I need to get back on top of learning more about marketing and building a foundational marketing ecosystem for my publishing endeavors, and trying to balance that ecosystem out with the fact that I'm now trying to turn to being more of a hobby writer. So that was actually a major epiphany that I had, as I explained to you guys in past episodes, that while I'm interested in writing to market and selling to market and all those things, I am more interested in writing the stories that I'm really excited and amped about. And so I'm trying to find now a balance between being a hobby writer, but also providing, again, the marketing foundation and the marketing ecosystem that will keep my name alive and well out in the publishing world and out on retailers, without letting all of that take over my craft and take over my, shall we say, creative spirit. So I'll get into all of that and delve more into marketing and building that foundational ecosystem in about a month or so. So just stay tuned for that. What else did I do? Is this the right document? Oh, it is. Okay. I also, because as you guys recall, I started rebranding the Books of Ezekiel series. I ended up unpublishing all versions of the Ghosts of Koa. I'm trying to find a way to unpublish or at least revamp the audiobook version of Ghosts of Koa. And that's for a bunch of reasons. It's for rebranding reasons. It's for the reorganization of the series reasons. It's because I want a different aesthetic for my covers and my graphics and stuff like that. So I pretty much have started the process of yet another but more subtle rebrand of the Books of Ezekiel series. So I'm sorry for those of you who were interested in buying the Ghosts of Koa. It really is just the first 2 books of the Books of Ezekiel series into one volume. But I'm going to still offer those first 2 books in a different kind of volume. So if you were interested in bulk buying the Books of Ezekiel series as is, as I mentioned before, that will be available to you May 17th, but in a different packaging, if that makes sense. I also worked a little bit on The Bohemian Badass. As I told you guys before, I started the Badass TV development adaptation blog series. I haven't posted it yet. I just started developing it. And I also wrote and published an article basically on how to nurture and protect your artistic inner child at thebohemianbadass.com. So go and check that out. Again, this is about me slowly getting back into the vibe of focusing on The Bohemian Badass as a blog and as a business. So just bear with me. I also posted more vlogs for my anonymous creative single mom vlog series on YouTube. And actually, I just got an email from one of my subscribers who was on my website and looking at the Dollhouse Foundation plan that I wanted to start up. And ultimately, this anonymous blog series will become a part of the Dollhouse Foundation. Right now, they're separate. But she was really interested as a single mother herself who is creative and who wants to write and develop her own work. She is very interested in becoming a part of that endeavor. And I was just so excited and flattered that, even for one person, the things that I want to do in this world, people can get excited about and they can see themselves reflected in that. So I haven't gotten back to your email. I forget your name, boo, but I will get back to your email. And I promise I will do my best to get the Dollhouse Foundation up and running as soon as possible so that we can start serving single moms who want to write, who want to publish, who want to just embroil themselves unapologetically in their art. So it's coming. Don't worry. It's not here yet, but it is coming. I also worked on my romance/erotica pen name website. I'm still trying to figure out if that's something I want to delve into. I certainly have come up with a few series ideas that I'm excited about. And I think some of this is just me being a little bit nervous about delving into a genre that I don't really embroil myself in, to be honest with you. I'm more action, adventure, sci-fi, fantasy. But I have some really sexy ideas that I want to write about under a different pen name. And I want to engage in that. But then part of me feels as though I don't have a right to, because I'm not a consumer of romance. I consume a little bit of it. But when I have an opportunity, I reach right for the dystopian, right for the thriller, you know? So I guess I'm having a little bit of a inner turmoil issue happening with whether or not I should start this name up. But in the meantime, I'm just gonna keep building the website and see where it goes. But I did do some of that in the past 3 months as well. Uh-oh. I dropped my pen. Okay, Creative Uni. Didn't really do much on this front this month, although I did finish Mira Nair's independent filmmaking masterclass at masterclass.com. I really enjoyed it. I invite you guys to sign up for masterclass.com, especially now that they have all these amazing other filmmakers and screenwriters on there. They just put on David Lynch. Natalie Portman's acting class is up. Excuse me, I have a frog in my throat. David Lynch, as you guys know, is like a really awesome mainstream avant-garde filmmaker, which is great. They also have Jodie Foster and her masterclass up there. I actually started engaging in that yesterday because I wanted to reinvigorate my Creative Uni, and I'm really enjoying her class. I'm enjoying her perspective and like her wonderful worksheets and workbook, which is great. She goes into philosophy of filmmaking, like some practicalities of filmmaking, and then some technicalities of filmmaking. Excuse me, I'm going to take another sip of my sparkling water here. So that's always really exciting and fun. So I did that. I also, because I didn't have much time to actually actively engage in the coursework, I've just been doing like a lot of passive listening of like vlogs and podcasts. So I've been listening to a lot of the Film Courage YouTube vlogs, as I write my screenplays and stuff like that. And it's very peaceful. I love sitting here listening to like those hour to 2 hour interviews while I'm working on something that really excites me. And for whatever reason, I feel as though I can split my attention between the actual listening of the podcast and me working on the screenwriting thing that I'm working on, which is interesting. Maybe it's because they're in the same genre, but I don't know. So I've been doing that. I've been listening to Garrett Robinson's Writer Wednesdays blog because they're short, they're sweet, they're encouraging. He gives a lot of great advice, and he's just really funny to listen to. I also really love his politics. If you're not a fan of his politics, you can still enjoy his YouTube channel, but he does make politics and activism and being an ally a very important, integral part of his writer's philosophy and a part of his values and a part of his mission, and that's just who he is. And so I really enjoy that a lot. And I also sat some of Mark Dawson's ads for authors course, and I will be continuing that in the next few months. It's a really great course, honestly. So yeah, I'll talk more about marketing and ads and things like that a little bit later down the line. And guys, that's about it. I already told you about, all the craziness that's been happening and how I needed to like engage in self-care and everything like that. A lot of things that have been going on outside of the creative lifestyle, as I told you guys, has been certainly providing some very interesting challenges that I feel as though I've been able to overcome or at least deal with in a very tempered way. So I feel very calm and at peace. And life is not always that way. Sometimes you will get bowled over. Sometimes you will feel overwhelmed. But one thing I learned about myself in the past 3 months is that I am creative, I endure, I am resilient, and I am extremely happy with what I'm doing in terms of my creative life that I'm trying to build for myself. And really doing what I really love to do and what I'm passionate about is what has brought me through all of the really challenging times and the trials and tribulations that I'm going through. So I guess if I'm able to pass on any sort of wisdom to you guys, and let me just check my phone really quick. If I'm able to pass on any sort of Wisdoms, I would say try your best to engage in something that you're passionate about, because even when things get rough on the seas of your life and your boat is rocking, if you're able to escape inside of yourself and really connect to what turns you on and makes you happy, you can really get through anything. That plus working hard and being dedicated to what it is you want to do. So that's all I have for you guys today. We're about to hit an hour, so I'm going to be out of here. I'm going to just rest and relax, finish cooking, and then just chill with my kid. It's going to be great. So I will be back here hopefully next week with a brand new podcast updating you guys on what's been going on for this week coming. But until then, keep it indie, stay badass, keep creating, and I will talk to you guys next week. Mwah. Bye. Oh, and by the way, happy Easter to those of you who are celebrating it this weekend. I'm not religious, but I do try to respect everybody's creative, spiritual, universal holidays. So if you're celebrating that, happy Easter. Enjoy your weekend, and I'll talk to you guys next week. Okay. Mwah. Bye for real. Bye.